Good evening. The constable has confirmed that the warrant for the special town meeting has been properly posted. The town clerk has informed me there is a quorum present.
Mike, get closer to the mic.
Get it closer.
Intimate.
The special town meeting of the town of Hamilton is now open. Good evening. I'm Bill Bowler, and I'm the town moderator. Welcome to the September 23rd, 2024 special town meeting, and thank you very much for coming. I hope to keep my opening remarks a little shorter than usual so that they're not longer than the warrant. We'll start as we always do by saying the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you're able to stand, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A few general reminders. If you're a registered voter in Hamilton, you should have picked up a voting clicker. You can get one out front if you haven't. We're old hands at this now, but we will have a brief demonstration later. Please turn off your cell phones. And we welcome non-voters to town meeting, but ask that you sit in the visitors area, which is in the back, my right. Thank you. I'll introduce some of the folks sitting in front of you. Lauren Goldberg, KP Law, Town Council. Corinne Kale, Town Clerk. Joe Dumelowitz, Town Manager. Wendy Markowitz, Finance Director. The Select Board, and the Finance Committee. Said I'm going to try to speed things up a little. I've asked non-resident town officials to assist the Select Board and Finance Committee to be present so they may be available to answer any questions. If you didn't get a copy of the warrant, as you came in, there are some copies available out front. That's what we use to do the business of the meeting. To bring an agenda item before the meeting, I'll recognize a member of the sponsoring board, committee, or individual so they can make a motion. If it's seconded, I'll recognize the proponent to speak. Once they're done, I'll open the discussion to you, the voters. To ensure that we have an orderly meeting, if you wish to speak, you must first ask me to recognize you. To save time, please be at the microphone. Due to the proverbial technical difficulties, we only have one microphone here to my right at the end of the aisle. If you have a question or comment. State your name and address, please, and we use town meeting time. You'll have 3 minutes to ask your questions or make a comment. Keep your comments within the 4 corners of the motion, directed to the business before the meeting. And no applause or cheering, please. And if you have an amendment, amendments must be in writing. Given to the town clerk here. Town council can give you some assistance in framing amendments, and anything else having to do with how we deal with amendments, I'll deal with if we get any. So Joe Dumelowitz will now demonstrate the clickers, excuse me, electronic voting.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. So you all should have one of these in your hand. The green button is for yes, the red button is for no. We have a sample question, and it is, did you know that this Saturday from 10 to 2 is going to be Public Safety Day in the town of Hamilton? Please vote now. So once we get close to knowing that we have all the votes counted, the moderator will call the time. All right, and then we'll close the voting.
The motion passes.
You all know. All right, that's great.
Thank you, Mr. Development.
You didn't know. Plug it.
Fair point. For those of you who didn't know, we have Public Safety Day this Saturday from 10 to 2 at the Public Safety Garage. Thank you.
I just, it was your opportunity.
The moderator corrects his error. Question did not pass. Okay, well, we now go through the articles in the warrant. Article 2024/9, 1-2, to hear any reports of town officers and selected committees and to take action thereon or relative thereto. I recognize Town Manager Joe Demelowitz to make a presentation on the purpose of tonight's meeting.
Thank you, everybody. First of all, thank you all for coming. I appreciate that it takes a lot to come out on a Monday night, and we appreciate your doing your duty as residents to come here and help us with these important decisions. I'm going to go through a brief project presentation, after which we can take some questions just about the project. And when we get into the motions, if you have questions about the financing or the financial aspects of the two questions, we have other folks here that can answer those questions at that time. Does that make sense? I will try to be brief. All right, next slide. Yeah. All right, so as most of you know, this project began in 2017 with the creation of the Town Hall Building Committee. Since then, the town meeting has supported the Town Hall project in separate votes in 2020, 2021, and again last year in 2023. The approvals in 2020 and 2021 also required a passage of a debt exclusion tax increase to complete the project. Unfortunately, in both instances, the voters chose not to approve the debt exclusion, and the project did not move forward. Last November, we brought a reworked project and a new project estimate to special town meeting, which did not require debt exclusion or any other new tax increases. And again, the town meeting approved that project. Next slide. So why are we back again today? Well, following last year's town meeting vote, the town and our consultants had to spend some time removing the energy and HVAC components from the original project to create the decarbonization project and have a separate rehabilitation project. We completed that work, moved forward to bidding, and when the bids came in on the renovation and preservation project, they came in over what we had estimated by about $2 million. Once those projects were separated, we went up here. It is important to note that the cost increase is entirely related to the renovation and preservation project. The decarbonization project that we created is entirely self-funded through grants, tax increment financing, and incentives from the utility. So no new town tax money would be needed to pay for the decarbonization project. This is just for general construction. We have noticed that over the last year, construction costs have gone up dramatically. So we had what we thought was a good estimate last November. It took us 4 or 5 months to get the new project put together and put out to bid. And by the time we opened bids in July, we had missed the mark. So, next one. As I just noted, the only thing that has changed since last November is the cost of the renovation and preservation project. At last year's special town meeting, we developed a budget based on a cost estimation. Now we have an actual cost. We had a low bidder. The low bidder is, as I said, over what we have for a budget, but he has agreed to hold that bid through the end of tonight's proceedings. So we know what the cost will be if we want to proceed. However, even with this new increase, we are proposing a funding mechanism that would not cause your taxes to go up. The use of the CPC funds and the use of free cash allows us to be able to afford the project without asking or needing to raise taxes at all to afford this project. Next slide. The funding request we developed, as I said, includes CPC funding and some amount of free cash. This approach was put together through the hard work of the Select Board, the Finance and Advisory Committee, the CPC, and some of the town staff and the Finance Department, notably Wendy Markowitz. So unfortunately, Wendy couldn't be here tonight, but this continues to have the support of the major boards and committees in the town. And we do feel like right now is the right time to move forward with this project. We're getting $2 million worth of well, they're not renovations, we're getting $2 million worth of energy work done to the building at no additional cost to us. And then the additional money that we put in tonight, if you say yes, would help us renovate and restore the town hall, the historic town hall, and bring it up to code. Next slide. Right now, we're just going to go quickly through some of the slides that I showed you last year. This is an artist rendering of what the new town hall would look like from the side. You'll note that one of the biggest advantages of this project is that we're adding an elevator addition to the rear of the building, and the current temporary ramp would be replaced with a new permanent ramp that would end behind the building as well. Next slide. In the town hall basement, we'd be renovating the locker rooms and storage rooms for the town and creating a small office. The basement floor would also be accessible through the elevator as well. Next slide. On the first floor, we'd be locating pretty much what are considered the front-facing departments of the town. So the town clerk, the town treasurer, the town assessor, the DPW office department, the planner, and the conservation agent would all be located on the first floor. And next slide. The memorial room would be moved upstairs. We'd have a much larger, new, renovated memorial room, and then the only offices up there would be the town manager and finance director. There would also be new bathrooms on the second floor, which the town currently doesn't have. And this is just an artist's depiction of what the new meeting room would look like. Next slide. And then this is show you our landscape and parking plan. So we'd be establishing some additional parking for the town hall and a part of the DPW yard. We'd be siting a new backup generator so that the entire building could continue to run if the power goes out, and the upgraded septic system. So that system is very old, it's going to need to be upgraded sooner or later anyway, so we could do it as part of this project. Last slide. This is what your new town hall, your renovated town hall would look like from Bay Road. As you can see, the cupola is fully restored, and the building, once again, looks as... Oh, sorry. I talked too fast. The building, once again, looks as glorious as it should. Can take some questions about the project right now, and as I said, maybe we can hold other questions about the financing and what we're asking until we get to those motions.
Are there any questions or comments on the project?
Really? I did that good a job? Thank you so much.
Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Demelowitz. Article 2-1, Community Preservation Town Hall Project. I recognize Jay Butler.
Jay Butler, 78 Olcott Road, Chair, Community Preservation Committee. I motion that the town vote to approve Article 2024/9 2-1 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Butler.
Yes. Just a couple of comments. As you heard from Joe Demelowitz, this CPA grant request for $1.5 million for the renovation, addition, and preservation project has been unanimously approved by the CPC, the FinCom, and the Select Board. The approved funds will be processed as a 20-year municipal bond to be paid for out of the CPC surcharge, and thus will have no effect on the tax rate. This effort has been addressed as a formal project for several years and informally for decades before. It's time. This grant, coupled with the following warrant article to transfer some free cash, together represent the final actions necessary to get the town hall project started. Your approval of this CPA grant will bring the number of CPA grants to a total of 6, equal to $6,475,000. This is an excellent example of how CPA grant money should be spent on the important needs of the town. Thank you.
Are there any questions? I recognize John McGrath, Chairman of the Finance Committee.
Good evening, folks. preparation for tonight's meeting, we packaged together a fair amount of information. It's in the book of recommendations. It's 14 pages, so we thought we'd go through each page. Okay, just trying to lighten the mood a little bit. Real quickly, the FinCom spent a fair amount of time, looking at this, what happened year over year. And while it's unfortunate that the project cost accelerated to the extent that it has, FinCom does support the project. The fact that the town is in financial health and is very strong allows us to use some free cash and also to utilize the CPC revenue stream without causing anyone's tax rates to go up. So, as Jay said, we all felt it's time to get this project done. We have solid bids. The funds are available. And by using these funds, it doesn't disadvantage the town in any way. So those are our thoughts. The other final comment I'll make is when we saw this increase, we sought to determine if it really made sense. And we actually did a little bit of research from our desks at home, but if you're interested in understanding what's going on with construction costs, refer you to a Globe Spotlight article from last December, which talks about what's going on in Massachusetts in the building industry. And also we looked at the Massachusetts School Building Authority cost and looking at what's happening with construction costs for new schools. We saw 30 to 50% increases. So it's unfortunate that we waited so long to do this project, and we're sort of suffering because of that. But the FinCom does support the project. It's not impairing the town at all. Rather, we're using some of the resources that we have at our disposal. So certainly, if you have any questions, you can certainly read about this in the book of recommendations. But if there are any questions, we're more than happy to entertain any of them. And that's all we had. Thanks.
Are there any questions or comments?
Lee McCoy, 56 Law Street. I just want to double check and make sure. I was a little concerned about low bids. Want to make sure that this is a reputable company and that we're not going to end up getting jumped, basically.
Can we recognize Tim Olson?
Yes. Tim Olson, our DPW director, can address that.
We're gonna have Tim answer that for you because he worked with the company to put the bids out and review the bids and make sure that everything was in order. So I'll have Tim address that for you.
Tim Olson, DPW Director. Yes, we did look at the bids. I had our architectural consultants as well. They are very reputable. They've done projects of similar size, historic nature, and they came recommended from our consultants. And with the research, we feel like they're a good qualified contractor.
Any other questions or comments?
John Despic, 195 Woodbury. I don't know if this is the time to ask this question. A couple of neighbors of mine and I looked at the pages at the back of the presentation with all the charts and stuff, and our eyes glazed over.
Yep.
So we don't quite understand where the funds come from that are in such a good, healthy position. I assume it's a tax increase of a couple of years ago. And secondly, we don't understand taking the money from free cash seems kind of a little unorthodox, and how much money is left and what are the normal purposes of free cash?
If you don't mind, we're going to tag team on that, myself and John. First, on free cash. Free cash is what is left over every year when we budget a certain amount and we either get in more taxes than we anticipated, or we spend less than we anticipated because we managed our budget very well during the course of the year. So for instance, I managed for a full department in the police department, right? And then somebody leaves in the middle of the year to take a job in another community, and it takes me 4 or 5 months to fill that position. That's 4 or 5 months I'm not paying that person, so that money falls to free cash. And you get a bunch of things like that that happen over the course of a year, and you wind up with a free cash sum every year. So free cash is generally expected to be spent on things that are non-recurring costs. Capital items are a big part of it. And if you come to annual town meeting, you'll notice that most of the time, when we ask to do capital projects, we're asking to fund the majority of those with free cash every year. So this is exactly the type of thing we would normally fund with free cash. And I'll let John or Jay Butler answer the question about the CPC issue.
Yeah, I can provide a little bit more color. As Joe mentioned, the free cash is, let's just say it's usually in the 3 to 5% range. So every year, because of sort of tight fiscal management, we underspend the budget by a certain amount. Every year it's a little bit different. Because those funds were budgeted under a certain budget category, we have to come back to the town and ask for permission to use any of those funds. So that's why it's on a warrant article. And as of right now, the town has $4.5 million worth of free cash. And the plan is to use $500,000 of that to fund this article. All right, so keep in mind that we do a budget, and the budget is detailed in April, and you vote in that budget. But if we do have free cash, we have to come back a second time to utilize that. All right, so if you look at the April town meeting, almost every meeting you'll see we're asking permission to use some of that free cash. Okay, the second question regarding the CPC, if you look at your tax bill, there's a small surcharge that we all pay above the tax rate, and that is for the CPC funds. It could be $100, it could be $500, depending on the size of your tax bill. The spending of those funds is under the sort of control of the CPC committee. Jay and about 7 or 8 town volunteers work on appropriate usages of those funds. Right now, that revenue stream is about $700,000 a year, all right, when they add up all the receipts for CPC. This project, the town hall project, will consume approximately $400,000 a year of the $700,000 a year that's already coming into the town for the next 20 years. So we are using an existing revenue stream generated by an existing rate, and it will consume about 60% of that to pay for the bonding on that project. And those CPC decisions are forwarded to the town meeting, and you get to vote on it, generally in April. But because this is a special town meeting, we're voting on it now. So 2 existing sources, sort of well-controlled, sort of well-publicized to the public, and you always get a chance to vote on free cash and CPC projects. Does that answer the question?
I would just add real quick to that, similar with free cash where we only spend the money on non-recurring items on an annual basis, CPC has specific things that we're allowed to spend that money on. And capital projects to historic structures is one of those categories that we could spend it on. So.
Any other questions or comments?
Hi there, my name's Pat Norton, and member of the planning board, but not speaking on behalf of the planning board this evening. And I missed the entire presentation. I was just coming in hot off a soccer practice. But just a comment and some discussion with neighbors. We were just wondering, from a priority perspective, knowing that we spent a couple $100,000 on planning to renovate Patton Park, or, you know, a future plan to spend money towards that. We're currently considering an update to the strategic master plan in the town, which has not yet been approved. There's obviously an athletic field project that's currently in litigation. There's a number of other projects in town undergoing. We have the 3A, we have the school project, we have the consideration for the form-based code and the comprehensive plan for the town. So just curiosity in having all these balls in the air. It seems like a lot's going on at the moment, and where this falls in priority. Thanks.
Thanks for your question. Caroline Beaulieu, Chair of the Select Board. You're not wrong about all the balls. There are many, many things happening, and I think one important point of note is that when Tim Olson brought this to the Select Board, part of what you're seeing here was that the mandate to the FinCom and to Wendy, who is not here tonight, was that we needed a creative source of funding that allowed us to do this with no impact to the tax rate. And that was because of the sort of implications of some of these ongoing projects that are ahead of us. Specifically, I think, you know, the school is a big one, the tax increases that are going to be associated with the Fields project. And so taking this sort of out of that larger conversation, we were hoping that for that exact reason, we could utilize the health of the town to get this paid for. I think one of the things that has sort of been lost in this conversation is that, you know, this is not the full town hall project that we wanted to do. It's a percentage of the project that costs twice as much as the original project. And part of that is that the prices keep increasing. And so the sort of mandate from the Select Board was, let's get this done so that we can get our people back in the building, we can get people back into an accessible space, let's not affect the tax rate or increase taxes for anybody, so that we can then turn our attention to, you know, what does the future of taxes look like for this town, and what are the priorities that we decide to spend that money on. Because, I mean, I think if you look at the voting record for this project, it does not seem to be a tax increase priority project for the town. That's been loud and clear when it's gone to a vote. So unfortunately, it's something that needs to be done. We can't allow Town Hall to fall into the ground. We need the space for the folks that work there and the community members who need it. So I would say it's a high priority for those who need it and for, you know, the space that we need and the timing of it and the cost of it. But it has not been such a priority that we've been willing to increase taxes in order to fund it.
Thank you.
And-
Any other questions or comments?
I can make one more comment if I could. Last year when we were in this meeting, the FinCom commented that Town Hall is the center of our town government. It is sort of the bedrock. It is the focal point of a small town. And there's sort of a theme that sort of permeates Hamilton, and that is we tend to defer big spending. And by that I mean we've deferred new schools, we've deferred work on the fields, we've deferred work on this building, we've deferred improvements to sort of the downtown center. So this town, and I've lived here 40 years, we have a record of not wanting to spend big bucks. So we tend to kick the can down the road a bit. So that, I'm speaking maybe more from the fact that I'm a 40-year resident, but I agree with Jay's earlier comments. It's time to get this project done. And the beauty of this project is Tim Olson and the town energy manager got really creative, and they created this decarbonization project, which is $1.8 million, which is being self-funded. So rather than saying, hey, we need another $2 million bond, they went out and put this project together. And you may know that Hamilton just won a $500,000 grant from the state to fund a big piece of this decarbonization project. So none of us like spending money, but the town did go out and use some creative expertise to pull some money in and carve out this decarbonization project, which brought the cost of the overall project down. So we give them, you know, kudos for working on our behalf to do that. And, you know, I just think it's, while it's not as important maybe as educating our kids, it is time to get this project done. And that's, I think that's what we said last year, and it's not cheap. There's no doubt about that. So, anyway, that's all I had.
Call vote.
I recognize Jay Butler.
Just a comment on the warrant before you is for $1.5 million from the CPC. We spend a lot of time looking as far as we can see into the future on potential areas where grants might be necessary. I consult with the capital planning group. We met, our group discussed this at length in May and June prior to our annual meeting with the select board in July, and then subsequent to that. And right now, we have no project standing in the wings to use this amount of money. We don't. And so there's no issue with regard to the CPC offering this up as a grant, as a solution to the town. This is the most important project that's ever crossed our desk in the committee. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Jeff Austin, I'm also on the planning board to speak as myself. Just a few comments. Free cash seems like $4 million is an awful lot of excess. Again, I don't, does anybody else know learning this process? $4 million seems like a lot of excess left over from our taxpayers' money, number one. Number two, I think there is a theme. There's a theme that we spend a lot of money or these projects seem to be very excessive. Yes, we need new fields. Yes, we need new schools being renovated. Yes, we need new tunnels. But the bills seem to be really high. Our expectations are really extremely high. And again, construction's not my forte, so I'm just going to bring a couple numbers up to say them out loud here. We got $834,000 for HVAC. $834,000 for HVAC. That elevator out there, $540,000 for an elevator. Not my forte, which seems really expensive. $290,000 for masonry work. Just seems really expensive. I know we can do this stuff. I'm not sure we do our due diligence to really bring these prices down. I know the market's really high. Maybe we don't do everything all at once. I know it's pain to do piecemeal. It just seems, I have the same concerns as Pat with a lot of stuff. We don't know right now in the books maybe, but there's a lot of issues in towns that have been spending money. Schools, free aid potentially. These are all things we're looking at now and we're saying, how are we going to avoid all the bills? So I have a lot of concerns there with that. I know it sounds really good. We have a lot of people, a lot of hard work into this, but it's right now, at the right time. That's my question.
So real quick on the free cash, I'll just say that the $4.5 million that's in free cash isn't from 1 year. It accumulates year after year after year. We have a free cash policy that every year when we balance the budget, we hold at least 5% of the operating budget aside in free cash. So that's $2 million that's been rolling over year after year after year. And then the additional amount comes every year. We balance the books at the end. We close the books at the end of the year. Some new money comes up, and we try to work in that margin to do ongoing capital projects and things as we had coming. I agree. It's a lot of money. I would note that the bids are in line with what actually the bid we have is actually the lowest bid. We had 5 or 7 bids, and the other bids were all much more than this. It's the cost of construction right now, and while we've been here proposing this every year, 2020, 2021, the price has gone up, and they're not going to go down. As far as doing this in phases, unfortunately, the town has allowed this project to be delayed for so long that we really can't. At this point, we're hemmed in by state and federal laws. If we want to fix the facade of the building and restore the cupola, we're going to spend so much money doing that's going to force us to make the building ADA compliant. Once we make the building ADA compliant, we spend so much money that we now have to make the building fire resistant. Those are the things. We can't do the project piecemeal. If I start to do a piece, the value of the building is so low that I trip the other triggers as soon as we start to do some work. we didn't want to do it this way. We spent 2 years after the voters told us no in 2021, we spent almost 2 years trying to figure out was there a way we could do this at a piece at a time. That's when we decided to separate out the decarbonization project and do a separate project at the same time, because we knew we could fund that with grants. We knew we could fund that with tax incentives and industry incentives. We're doing the best we can, but I will tell you that if the vote says no tonight, that's the will of the town meeting. We'll be back here again in a couple of years, and the project's not going to be less expensive. I guarantee you it won't be.
Any other questions or comments?
If you could come down to the microphone here, please.
We have people lined up in microphones who are not doing.
Yeah, please, if you have a question, line up behind.
Yes, Rick Mitchell, 36 Rock
Mr. Mitchell.
Ave. Time is money. We've delayed this project 4 years. It's gone up 50% in cost. The more we talk, the more time, the more money it's going to cost. The time is now. Let's call the question and get it done. And I'm calling the question.
It's within the moderator's prerogative. Anyone, this gentleman speak.
Hi, Dave Lash, 783 Lakeshore Avenue. I spent 30 years in commercial real estate development, renovating older buildings. And I was going to say much what Joe just reported, and I'm just going to underscore. A building like this, what do you think the useful life is? It's about 40 years. We've been 40 years without a gut renovation, without a major renovation to this building. And it's impossible to piecemeal it because, just as Joe said, one thing triggers another thing. You want to do an elevator, you might need more electrical capacity. Pretty soon that project is outrageous just to do an elevator. And so what happens is owners stop renovating. They stop repairing. They stop having efficient maintenance in the building. And every now and then, every 40 years, you got to bite the bullet and modernize the building and bring it back to a baseline of standard where you can maintain it efficiently. So I just really want to underscore the good work of putting together an integrated plan and design that's efficient and compact and matches our operations. And I strongly support going ahead with this.
Okay, I sense that we're ready for a vote. This requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of Article 2-1, please vote yea, and those opposed, nay. So voting is open now.
How do we know the machine works?
Voting is closed.
Just real quickly, if you got here late, I apologize that you missed the test. We had a test question at the beginning of town meeting, and the people that were present in the room, we asked them a question, a yes or no question, and they got to see that the machines are working. So this is the 5th town meeting we've done with the electronic voting clicker, so we're pretty confident in the accuracy.
Okay, because there is some question about it, I'm gonna request that we re-vote.
Someone just asked how we knew
You can re-vote.
Okay. Voting is closed.
Voting's closed.
Voting is closed.
Voting is closed. Vote is 101 yea, 17 nay. That's more than 2/3. The article passes, and I so declare. Thank you. Before we move to the next article, I note that our State Senator Bruce Tarr is here. Does he wish to address briefly the assemblage? Is he aware, I wonder, of our new Bucktown bylaw, that, we charge $1 per minute?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, through you to the members of town meeting. And, Mr. Moderator, we also have a new state bylaw that for every dollar an elected official is charged at town meeting, we deduct $1 in local aid. So happy to be able to comport with your ruling. Mr. Moderator, I just want to take a minute, first of all, say it's good to see folks come out at town meeting. I know this is an important discussion. It's an important project. And I just want to say that it's been a real pleasure to work with the town administrator and the DPW director on the decarbonization components of this project, which I think are extremely significant. We were able to work together to expedite the studies and approvals that were needed for some components of the renewable energy aspects of the project. And it's also good to see some state money flowing into that particular aspect of it. And I would commend the town and its officials for working on a project of this nature and making sure to include a decarbonization component. Is something that could have been overlooked. It was not, and I think it's significant, and I think it reflects outstanding leadership, and I just wanted to make that comment. Mr. Moderator, again, I appreciate the opportunity to come and say hello, and thank everyone for coming out for town meeting. And Mr. Moderator, it's always an honor to work with all the people at the front of this room on behalf of all the people in the rest of the room. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Article 2-2, Town Hall Project. I recognize Rosemary Kennedy.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for coming out tonight. I move that the town vote to approve Article 2024/9 2.2 as printed in the warrant. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Kennedy.
I just wanted to make a few comments, and the most important thing for everybody to remember is with all the financial concerns going around, there is no increase in the tax bill, and that's really important. Our town hall has been well maintained. There has not been a total renovation since the year it was built in 1897. Speaks of its wonderful bones. The town hall needs and deserves our collective attention. It represents our history, and with your help, our future. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments? If not, we'll go to a vote. This requires a majority vote. You'll have 20 seconds to vote. Voting is now open.
Good to see you.
Voting is now closed.
It's 100.
The vote is 100 to 15, more than a majority. The article passes, and I so declare. Is there a motion to dissolve the special town meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody.